What's going on, everybody? Curtis Wilkerson here with Inside Arkansas, the Pot at the Palace, coming to you with another episode of the Hoop Hogs Video Mailbag, where pretty much you guys ask me a question that's Arkansas basketball related, and I answer it in video format. We're posting one of these every day. We're trying to do one every single day leading up into the season. We've had some doozies, and we got another really, really good one today. Comes from Kiss Off the Glass. It's a good Twitter name there. It says, which column on the stat sheet do you see this team best suited to lead the country in? Great question. I put a lot of thought into this last night. It's kind of interesting. What do? You think back to, okay, well, what was Arkansas really good at last year? What was Kentucky maybe really good at last year under Cal? And looking at it, I think right off the top, it said, hey, Kentucky led the country in 3-point percentage last year under John Calipari. Could that carry over? I don't know that I necessarily see that with this team. I think they're going to be an improved three-point shooting team, especially percentage-wise over what we've seen from Arkansas the last few years, but I don't know about leading the country. I don't see any Reed Shepherds necessarily on this particular roster, so, probably not that. Well, what were Muss's teams always really good at? FTAs, right? Free throws attempted. It seems like they led the country or at least the SEC in free throw rate year in and year out. I don't know that I necessarily see that with this team. Obviously, a different roster, turnover, different staff, different philosophy. So maybe not. Scoring offense is an interesting one because Kentucky was obviously very high-powered last year. I think Arkansas fans are starved to see some scoring, right? Was a little bit clunky offensively under Muss. Now, they had some times where it was almost poetry in motion. They had some really good stuff going that Moses Moody year. But, for the most part, it was that Milwaukee's Bucks saying that it wasn't working for them, maybe the way that they thought it would. But at the same time, Cal's not bringing his quote unquote offensive coordinator over with him in John Welch, who kind of was instrumental in that just being such a high powered, high octane, heavy volume 3-point shooting offense last year. Now, will he carry some things over from that to Arkansas? He absolutely might, or they might just run a bunch of dribble drive and floppy action, which can work too, but it's not necessarily as explosive. So I'll be interested to see where Arkansas is at in terms of scoring offense. I think they'll be up there in the SEC, but you still got an Alabama team that's got a ton coming back. And we know you shoot 43s a game, you make enough of them, and you're probably going to score more than your opponent most of the time. But what I actually landed on, I think, is going to be a block party in Bud Walton Arena. I could legitimately see Arkansas leading the SEC and being near the top of the country in block shots per game. Rim protection, I think, is going to be a real strength for this Razorback team. And you think back to the two teams last year, Kentucky was third in the country, 6.3 blocks per game. Arkansas was tied for fourth in the country at 6.1 block shots per game. And Arkansas has, pieces or players off of both of those rosters on the team this year, plus one of the best rim protectors in the SEC. So if you go through it and you think, okay, well, they need to be, between that 6 to 7 blocks per game range, if they're going to get to the top of the country, which I think the leader was App State last year, was 6.8 blocks per game. Well, Jonas Adu was 1.8 blocks per game last season. Big Z was 1.2 blocks per game last season. Trevin Brazil was 1.2 blocks per game last season. Adut the Arrow averaged 1.1 blocks per game last season. So, and that's not accounting for anybody improving. Like, would you be surprised if Jonas Adu blocked over 2 shots per game? I wouldn't be at all. Big Z only played in, just over a dozen games last season. We don't think he can't make a bit of improvement there in the block shot department. I mean, he was playing 11 points per game or 11 minutes per game and averaging over a block per game. I think he's going to play more minutes. Why wouldn't he average more blocks? And then if they're really going to bring the attack dog out of Trevin Brazil, when he was at Mizzou as a freshman, he averaged nearly 2 blocks per game. He was 1.2 per game both years at Arkansas. There is a world where he could get back to that aggressive rim protecting mindset that he had in his first season in Missouri under Quanzo Martin, and no reason why he couldn't do that. He's a year removed from that injury. He's healthy. Seems like he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, which I think he needs, and they're preaching for him to be more physical, like I said, more of an attack dog, and I like the way he's going to be positioned from a shot blocking standpoint. He's at his best as kind of a weak side shot blocker. There's a drive, he steps over and swats that thing off the backboard. He's kind of that second line of defense, as opposed to being the guy who's defending a big bruising center and kind of getting backed under the basket. That's tough for him. I think he's in a more advantageous position to where he can get an uptick there. And then, yeah, I mean, Thiero is one of the most versatile defenders in the country. He can guard the post, he can guard the perimeter, he can switch to 3-4 different positions. 6'8", 220 pounds. If he's out there defending a wing or a two guard, yeah, he's going to be able to alter and block some shots there. But if you just add up what they had last year, that's 5.3 blocks per game. If you get 1 block per game total combined out of everybody else on the roster, you'd be right there in the thick of things at the top of the country. I think about some of these other guys that we might not necessarily know what they're going to bring to the table. DJ Wagner is not a big shot blocker, obviously, as a 6'3", 6'4 guard. Same for Nelly Davis, although he's a high steals guy. And we saw some highlights of him, blocking some shots off the backboard in practice, kind of welcoming the freshmen to the SEC. But one that I kind of have my attention on is Billy Richmond, right? Every time we see this kid in a highlight, he is head above the rim, dunking on somebody. He's known as a super versatile defender. He's really, really long. He's really, really athletic there on the wing. He's a guy that I could see pitching in that department as well. So who knows how it's going to play out, but I do think rim protection is going to be a strength. And you asked where I could see Arkansas leading the country in a column on the stat sheet. I think blocks per game is exactly where I would point if I had to pick one. And it's not outside the realm of possibility at all. So a really good question there by Kiss Off the Glass. I appreciate it. This stuff is fun. I like the stat projections and everything like that. The player comps and everything like that. It's a good time. It's entertaining. It's engaging, and really appreciate everybody for, just kind of flooding the inbox and the mailbag with all these questions. When we started this thing, I was thinking, we might get, 10 days, 2 weeks worth of content out of this. And that's pretty awesome. But it quickly started filling up. And I thought, it'd be pretty awesome if we could do this every single day up until opening night of the college basketball season, maybe beyond. I don't know. But we're trending in that direction. We're about 3 weeks deep here and we still got a ton to get to. But keep hitting me with the questions. Anything you got. It can be player related, coach related, stat related, schedule related, recruiting related, whatever. Hit me with it. And when it's your time, we're going to get to it. We're going to talk about it. So I do have a pinned tweet on my X profile. It's at Kurt Wilkerson _. You can throw the questions in there. If you watch these videos on YouTube, you can get in the comments. You can throw me a DM, send an email on the website. I've had a few of those. Whatever you need to do, if you send the question, I will eventually see it and we'll get to it for sure. But the engagement has been awesome. And I really, really appreciate everybody kind of following along with this so far. Make sure you get subscribed to our YouTube channel, Inside Arkansas. We post these every single morning at 8 a.m. It's got its own playlist. And so it's getting pretty heavy there. And you can always check those out. Good with a cup of morning coffee, I like to say. So thanks again, everybody. And I'm going to get out of here because we got more of these to record and we will be back with you in the morning. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas and the Pod at the Palace. Everybody have a good day.